Now what we're gonna do here is kind of like basically a recent, what a lot of people like to call in the vinyl community, vinyl finds videos. I don't do these as often as a lot of other people. Usually the only time that I do them now is if it revolves around a meetup with other people that do this type of thing, make videos that talk about records. Or if it involves like a trip or a vacation and I kind of want to show, hey, I went to this record store and this is what I found on vacation, that type of thing. Here we have a couple of meetups. That's what this one is centered around. But first, I want to talk about Pokemon. Now, my son loves Pokemon cards. He watches the cartoon too, but it started with the cards. And I don't remember where he, had a friend in school or something that liked Pokemon, and so now he's all about Pokemon cards. And every time we go into like a Target or somewhere like that, he wants to get a Pokemon pack of cards, right? Now, I am not convinced at all that he even really knows how to properly play the card game itself. Two, he just wants them over and over and over again, and he just keeps buying them, or I have to buy them for him obsessively over and over again. And really all he does is he just kind of looks through them. He just kind of looks at them, talks about how cool they look or how powerful they are. I'm not even sure if there's really any consistency to that. But yeah, all he does is he just wants and wants and wants more and more Pokemon cards. All he does is stare at them and never really plays the actual game. I don't know. I can't place it, but anyway. Now, back on the 7th of May, Eric Weinbender and I met up and we went to see Neil. We went to see Uncle Neil and Crazy Horse in Atlanta. I have never seen him before. That was Eric's first time too. Neil Young is somebody that I've wanted to check off for quite a while now. I think this was the first official Crazy Horse tour in maybe close to 10 years. Neil is, much older obviously now, and those guys are much older now. I will say though, he's got this kind of voice that ages well. He hasn't had to entirely change the way he sings, like somebody like Bob Dylan, or they still can really play. There's some incredible jams. There was, some times where they maybe got a little off sync. The kit was dragging a little bit at times, but listen, that's kind of the thing about Neil Young and Crazy Horse. They've always kind of been very loose and raw and kind of like the original Slacker Rock, right? I thought it was a fantastic show, an absolute classic set list. I'll share the set list somehow, somewhere in this video. Was better than I even expected it to be. Yeah, it's an amazing time. Eric, I know, is a big Neil Young fan, so I thought of him initially when I saw the tickets and thought, hey, it'd be great for us to hang out. While we were at the show, I was thinking of several other folks out there that are Neil fans. Lise, I thought of you immediately, of course. Dom at Seeking a Thread, my buddy Dean, who lives out in Australia. There's a lot of Neil fans in the VC, right? But it was fantastic time. Now, it was like a couple of weeks before the Neil Young show, and Eric decided to drive up through Charlotte. He does that at least once or twice a year. He wanted to go over to Noble, pick up some of the Noble exclusives, but we, let Dave know that Eric was going to be in town, so Dave came and met us up. We tried to reach out to Steve Bender. He had a lot more important things going on in his life than meeting up with a bunch of other old farts to dig for records, so But we miss Steve. Would have been a good time to hang out with him. We started at Noble Records. I'm going to go through what I found during the day. Spent a good amount of time going through the bins. Also just kind of chit-chatting and whatnot. You know, just hanging out while we were in the store. This was the first one that I saw immediately. Sahara by McCoy Tyner on Milestone. I guess I'll get geeky and talk about all the different pressings and everything, but this is actually a repress. This probably would have been like 73. It initially came out in 72. You can see it has the orange label. Really happy to have this one. I've been over the last couple of years getting more of Tyner's Milestone recordings, and I love those Milestone records by him. They really might even be my favorite part of his discography, if I'm completely honest. And they're still fairly affordable these days, which is good. So right along beside that one, I found Crossings by Herbie Hancock. This is one of the 3 records that he recorded with basically what is known as the Mwandishi band, or those sessions or whatever, around that time, that era. The group includes like Eddie Henderson and Julian Priester. God, who's the other guy? Benny Maupin, and now Patrick Gleason really kind of changed things up. There's some really wild stuff on here. I think that this album is amazing, and I had casually streamed it before, but I sat down with it the other night, and the record didn't even really look that clean. I ran it through the record doctor, and it was still kind of cloudy. But here you see it's on the Warner Brothers. This is not a first pressing, it's like a repress from 74. Man, I put it on the turntable, and my God, this thing sounded amazing. I don't know why somebody felt that they needed to make an audiophile reissue of this. This one hit really hard the other night when I was listening to it, and yeah, I love it. I've seen a lot of people talk about this record over the years. I would say it's kind of a VC favorite even. It's 10 Drum by Japan. Anyway, this is a UK press from 1981. I believe it usually comes with an insert, a poster or something of some sort. That's not with it. Doesn't have the original inner sleeve. But there you go. 10 Drum, Japan, David Sylvian. Yeah, really excited to have this one. Yeah, so after hanging out at Noble for a little while, we decided to move on, and we went down to Premium Sound, which is located in Goldtone Workshop, which is a guitar shop, workshop store. It's the new location of Premium Sound Records, which is our buddy Luke. We always like hanging out with Luke, seeing Luke, and you know, I always find some amazing stuff in Premium Sound. It like never fails. This was one that I found, this was kind of appealing. I'd never heard this record, never seen it before, and I don't normally make blind buys anymore, but this wasn't purely blind because of the label it's on. This is Clarence Smith, and this album is called What Happened to Love. This is a gospel record, but it's on the Gospel Truth, which was a subsidiary label of Stax. There you go. This is from 1973. I just thought I would take a flyer on it. It was 25 bucks. I know about that label. I've listened to some of the music from those compilations that have been put out, and this did not disappoint. I listened to this last week, and it's fantastic. Now, I will say there are some kind of heavy moments on it, some kind of gospel tunes that are about like the state of the world and whatnot, but it's still really great. It grooves so much. There's some background vocals, people that they credit. There's some arrangers that are credited here, but it says the musicians, and it says rhythm, the movement. And then it says horns, the South Memphis Horns. And I will say the horn arrangements on this record are amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's where it's at. This is outstanding. Kind of an odd pose there in the front with no shirt on, but what are you gonna do? Clarence, he's got a good voice too. But the horn arrangements, the vocal arrangements, just really, really, really strong stuff. It also has a killer version of Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child. Yeah, I was really, really happy that I picked this up. Took a chance on it. Now for something completely different, also in the used bin, I found this used reissue of Seafield's Sucker. Yeah, this is a reissue on Warp. A lot of the Seafield original pressings are kind of pricey now. Most of them have seen reissues. Even some of the reissues are kind of pricey. This one, not as much, and sitting in a used bin for like 20 bucks. And this is kind of ambient, experimental, dare I say post-rock? I don't know how to explain it. Excited to kind of maybe spend a late night with this one after the family's in bed or whatever. I don't know. And then some things that you don't really see me show as much as of late. Yeah, some classic rock. Fairly recently, I don't know, I can't keep track and I don't watch all his videos because he posts like 3 a day, but Mazzy did a video on Traffic. I believe it's like the second time he's done a video on Traffic. And this might be something that's not common knowledge to a lot of people, but I'm a huge Traffic fan. Like I've always been into them, especially just like I'm a Steve Winwood guy, I guess, more than anything, but I'm a big Traffic guy. Got into them probably like my senior year of high school and kind of stayed on like this deep dive into their discography up until like my sophomore year in college. I bought every album on CD, every studio album on CD that they had, except for like the reunion one that came out, when did that come out? Like in the 90s? Watching that video that Mazzy had done, I was like, I'm gonna play some Traffic, and I went to the shelf and I realized that I was still missing like a couple. This one I thought I had, and I didn't, but John Barleycorn Must Die, and this is one of my favorites by them. And it was one of the first used records I ever bought, like back in the early 2000s. Trying to thin out the collection, I might have gotten rid of it just because of condition or something. This is an outstanding record. If anything, some of the Traffic records are just too short because they're all like 6 songs, 5 or 6 songs, some of them. This one and the next one, which I think is kind of underrated, Shootout of the Fantasy Factory. There's still incredible material on this. Absolutely. Especially in the rhythm section, especially the drumming. Fantastic stuff. And then last but not least, and actually I just noticed an Instagram post from Eric Weinbender talking about this very record. So I have this reissue here of Fencibus Eruptum by Blue Cheer. It's a Sundays reissue. It's a mono Sundays reissue. I believe it was an RSD release. Well, while we're in Premium Sound, Eric walked over to me and he said, "Hey, do you have this one?" I said, "Well, I got a very nice reissue, a very good sounding reissue of that one, in fact. But this was a 68 press and in outstanding condition." So, yeah, I let Eric talk me into it. I'll figure out what I want to do with that reissue later. And this is kind of like a record that, dare I say it, almost everybody should own. You know. And then last but not least, Brad from Orlando, Florida, reached out to me. He was coming into the Carolinas. He was going to go see Queens of the Stone Age in Raleigh, North Carolina, and said after the show, after a night in Raleigh, he wanted to come through town, come to Charlotte, and wanted to know if I could meet up. The weekend ended up being a bad weekend for me, but I was able to meet up with Brad on that Friday. I just kind of like left work, took an extended, lunch break, like a few hours, something like that, just so I could meet up with Brad. We met up at Lunchbox, we chit-chatted, he found some really good stuff. I've actually got the records still sitting over there. I need to mail them to him. They're coming, Brad, I promise. And while I was in there with him, I picked up a couple of new releases, which I'll talk about in another video. but I picked this up off the wall. And this is a original pressing of the Dead Boys, Young, Loud, and Snotty. Sonic Reducer is an absolute classic song. One of the premier opening tracks on any record, I would say. I don't have a ton of punk. Most of what I have is kind of the classic albums. Yeah, so we just added that one. And so I guess while I'm on the subject of Lunchbox, I was in there last week as well. I saw Scott post a video of some jazz records that had come in, and one that was very appealing to me. But I also grabbed this copy of World Galaxy by Alice Coltrane, which I already have, but I grabbed it for Bill and Vinylverse, who is gonna be in Charlotte eventually, like sometime in June, sometime next month, so I'll give it to him then. There was some other really nice jazz records in there, but the one that I really wanted to get is the one that's kind of been playing in the background. I don't know if anybody could hear it, but Julian Priester's Love, Love. This was on my extremely short list of ECM records that I still really wanted to have. This one absolutely blows me away. I spun this one immediately the other night right after Crossings. And I was in a nice space that night with these two albums. Fantastic stuff. Really immersive listen, those two records. So anyway, it was really good to see Eric. Always good to hang out with Eric. Great to see Brad. Hadn't talked to Brad in years. He hasn't made a video in like probably 5 years. But he seemed to be doing really good, and it was great to catch up with him. Maybe we'll close the video out with some Uncle Neil. Then you'll hear that old cranky bastard at the end, right? And then you'll know it's done. Then you'll know you watched another video on the digital gramophone. Please like and subscribe, and then unlike, and then unsubscribe, because that's kind of how we prefer things around here. All right. I felt very much like a host in this video. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, everybody's doing well. All right, bye.
Digital gramophone makes no sense.